Okay, we're going to continue on. This is the first book of Esdras. What is new in 1 Esdras and most attractive is the story of the three guardsmen. The story probably originated in Persia, was translated into Aramaic, and then adapted to the purposes of this book. Our author has named the victorious guardsman Zerubbabel to cement the connection with his history and to magnify his favorite personage. For his prize, Zerubbabel craves and obtains the privilege of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem and the temple. Zerubbabel's eloquent defense of his thesis, "The truth is strongest," familiar in word literature as the Magna es Vertis el Prevalebit, has been acclaimed as a precious bit of Archimedean literature, perhaps of importance for the development of the doctrine of the Logos. The vicissitudes of the story offer an instructive example of the Hellenistic melting pot at work. The date of 1 Esdras is somewhere near the beginning of the Common Era. Now, okay, this is the first book of Esdras. When Josiah celebrated the Passover festival in Jerusalem to his Lord, he sacrificed the Passover on the 14th day of the first month, placing the priests in their divisions, clad in their vestments, in the temple of the Lord. And he ordered the Levites, the temple slaves of Israel, to consecrate themselves to the Lord when they put the holy chest of the Lord in the house of the Lord, which Solomon the king, the son of David, had built. And he said, "You will not have to carry it on your shoulders anymore. So now worship the Lord your God and serve his people, Israel, and prepare yourselves by your families and kindreds, as David, king of Israel, wrote, and with all the magnificence of Solomon his son, take your places in the temple according to your ancestral groups as Levites before your brothers, the Israelites, in proper order, and to sacrifice the Passover. And get the sacrifices ready for your brothers and observe the Passover in accordance with the Lord's command which was given to Moses." And Josiah gave the people that were present 30,000 lambs and kids, 3,000 calves, and these were given out of the king's revenues, as he promised, to the people, and the priest, and the Levites, and Hilkiah, and Zechariah, and Jeiel, the rulers of the temple, gave the priest for the Passover 2,600 sheep, and 300 calves, and Jeconiah, and Sheremiah, and Nathaniel, his brother, and Abibiah, and Ochiel, and Joram, colonels of the regiment, gave the Levites for the Passover 5,000 sheep, 700 calves, and it was done. The priests and the Levites, with their unleavened bread, stood in proper order, according to their kindreds and their family divisions, before the people, to make the offering to the Lord, as it was prescribed in the book of Moses. They did it in the morning. They roasted the Passover with fire in the proper way, and boiled the sacrifices in cauldrons and basins with savory odors, and set them before all the people. Afterward they prepared some for themselves and their brothers the priests and the sons of Aaron. For the priests were offering the fat until late, so the Levites prepared meat for themselves and for their brothers the priests, the sons of Aaron. The sacred musicians too, and the sons of Asaph, were in their places, according to the regulations of David, with Asaph and Zechariah and Adenas, who were of the king's circle, and the doorkeepers stood at each door. No one needed to interrupt his duties for the day, for their brothers, the Levites, prepared meat for them. So the things they had to do with the Lord's sacrifices were carried out that day, and celebrating the Passover and offering the sacrifices on the altar of the Lord as King Josiah commanded. So the Israelites who were present at the time observed the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread for 7 days. No such Passover has been celebrated in Israel since the times of the prophet Samuel, and none of the kings of Israel had celebrated such a Passover as Josiah and the priests and the Levites and the Jews celebrated with all the Israelites that were present in the dwellings in Jerusalem. It was the 18th year of the reign of Josiah that this Passover was observed. And the doings of Josiah were upright in the Lord's sight, for his heart was full of piety. And the events of his times have been recorded in the past about those who sinned and acted quickly toward the Lord beyond any other nation or kingdom, and how they grieved him keenly, so that the words of the Lord rose up to condemn Israel. After all these doings of Josiah, it happened that Pharaoh, king of Egypt, came to make war at Carchemish on the Euphrates, and Josiah went out to encounter him. And the king of Egypt sent word to him, saying, "What do you want of me, king of Judah? I was not sent against you by the Lord God, for my war is on the Euphrates. And now the Lord is with me. The Lord is with me, urging me on, depart and do not oppose the Lord." But Josiah would not turn back to his chariot, but tried to fight with him, disregarding the words of Jeremiah the prophet, spoken by the mouth of the Lord, and joined battle with him in the plain of Megiddo. And the leaders fought against King Josiah. And the king said to his servants, "Take me away from the battle, for I am very sick." And his servants immediately took him out of the fray. And he got into his second chariot, was taken back to Jerusalem, and departed this life, and was buried in the tomb of his forefathers. And they grieved for Josiah all over Judah, and Jeremiah the prophet lamented for Josiah, and the principal men with the women have mourned him to this day. And it was ordained that this should always be done throughout all the nation of Israel. This is recorded in the scroll of the histories of the kings of Judah. And every one of the deeds of Josiah, and his splendor, and his understanding of the law of the Lord, and what he had done before. And these present deeds are told in the scroll of the kings of Israel and Judah. And the men of the nation took Jeconiah, the son of Josiah, and made him king to succeed Josiah his father, when he was 23 years old. And he reigned 3 months in Judah and Jerusalem. Then the king of Egypt deposed him from reigning in Jerusalem. He had assessed the nation 100 talents of silver and 1 talent of gold. And the king of Egypt appointed Jehoiakim his brother, king of Judah and Jerusalem. And Jehoiakim put the nobles in prison and seized his brother Zarias and brought him back from Egypt. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king of Judah and Jerusalem. And he did what was wrong in the sight of the Lord. And Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came against him and put him in chains of brass and took him to Babylon. And Nebuchadnezzar took some of the sacred dishes of the Lord and carried them off and set them up in his temple in Babylon. But the stories about him and his uncleanness and his impious behavior are written in the Chronicles of the Kings. And Jehoiakim his son became king in his stead. For when he was made king, he was 18 years old, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem, and did what was wrong in the sight of the Lord. And a year later, Nebuchadnezzar sent and removed him from Babylon or removed him to Babylon,